This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody!
Hey, how you doing?
I'm glad you stopped by again this week. We're so happy that you're here with us. And hey, listen, I want, first of all, before we do anything else, I want to let everybody know that, because people have been sending me messages asking about Nana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't remember from last week whether she was in the hospital or out, but she's out of the hospital now. Went to the doctor today, and she's heading in the right direction. So yeah, we're grateful for that. So there you go, and thank you everybody for asking. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So this is kind of a big week.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a huge week for you, right?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal.
Yeah. So for other reasons that you can let us know about, but what I'm thinking about is because you started college.
Yeah.
Kind of a big stinking deal.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I've been taking 3 classes for this week, and I'm really looking forward to how they turn out and everything, you know?
That's really cool. And so you started, today's Monday. Well, when everybody hears this, it's going to be tomorrow. But last Monday, this is Martin Luther King Day.
Yes.
And last Monday is when you started.
Yes.
So you go 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 3 classes?
Yes.
Said, so what do you do? Monday and Wednesday you take 1 class?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. And so then Tuesday?
Thursday, I have 2 classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've been to each of them twice at this point?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's going all right?
It's going wonderfully.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I'm nailing it right now.
That's pretty cool. So I have a question about this. So you have been to college before in the past, a couple of different times. And what's different this time versus the other times?
Well, I can say for certain that every time I've tried to go to college again, I know that I've said something feels different this time. So I know I've said that for each time.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's not only that something feels different, but it's the fact that I'm confident in myself this time. That I am feeling really good about this.
That's like, a lot of times I don't think people really consider that aspect of whatever situation they're in.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not feeling good about yourself and confident in yourself, it really does impact. It can take away from what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Where do you think this newfound confidence came from?
I have no clue. I absolutely have no idea.
It just happened.
Yeah. I mean, I am not a confident person most of the time. I may seem like it, but I'll be honest, I'm not a confident person. I'm very introverted. I'm very not confident. I may be outgoing, or at least be perceived as that, especially in my classes when I'm excited about them and everything. Mm-hmm. But I'm a fairly shy person, really.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that being shy is like the same, is connected to not feeling confident?
In some aspects it can be. I'm not saying that every time you feel shy you're not feeling confident.
Right.
Because you can feel shy and embarrassed about your ability, or abilities, plural. Mm-hmm. while at the same time being confident in that you did well or something at what you're being like. Let's say you're being praised by someone else about what you did. You can be shy and embarrassed about it, but you're still confident about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that a lot more people than you would probably think feel a bit of insecurity.
Yeah.
Or not very confident about what they're doing, they still move forward.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. I think most people in general at some point or another have had those things to deal with or are dealing with those things. Very successful people.
Yeah.
They still feel inadequate, yet we can see the works that they do and think that it's amazing. So you've tried this before, and I'm so happy that this is going well for you and that it feels different, even different-er than the other difference.
I think the correct English is more... what was the word you used?
A different-er.
It was even more different.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Okay, so what kind of issues have you faced at school that you feel that you can overcome now? So in the past, I'll put that a different way.
Yeah.
In the past, there have been things that have tripped you up. And can you elaborate on some of those things that you face that might not be the typical things that people face when they go to school? Because,
right.
There are a few people that have found school very easy. Mm-hmm. But for most people, it's, it takes effort.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
I have always enjoyed middle school and high school. Elementary, not so much because of bullies. But,
yeah.
But I always loved learning. Whenever it came to college, though, it had a much different kind of ambiance, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the safety net that I really had in middle school and high school. Mm-hmm. I kind of fell through the cracks before of the safety nets in college. Oh,
correct. So some of those things, some of the safety nets that you had through middle school and through high school was that at that point that's when you had the TSS there with you.
Yes.
To help to
the wraparound services were a tremendous help. Mm-hmm. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Right, I agree. And what they're within the school itself, they had the learning support teachers. There were the adaptations that were put in place. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if a there's so many of them, but just for example, you could take a test in a different location that wasn't as busy or noisy.
Yeah.
You had a longer period of time with certain assignments or tests. So there were those kind of things, and they were also counselors that helped an awful lot. Mm-hmm. But just the teachers working with you and me and the counselors and the learning support teacher and the TSS, everybody all together kind of, there was a plan in place just for you.
Yeah.
So
now I would like to make a single point real quick. I was in middle school and high school. I was in both the learning support system as well as the gifted program.
Mm-hmm. True.
Which, my point for saying that, just because you're autistic doesn't mean that you're stupid.
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. It was, It's kind of a
It's almost an oxymoron.
It's kind of, yeah, because you definitely needed the learning support teachers and atmosphere that they provided, yet you were in the gifted programs.
Yeah.
So it's just not a clear-cut situation.
Right.
Yeah. And so all of these, the safety net was in place when you were in school. And when you left, then, it's this thing that happens that, I'm hopeful that changes as more is developed and understood. Because what seems to happen is that once somebody gets through the public school system and you graduate high school, those supports are just far in between. It's just something that's very difficult. When you went the first time, there was somebody that was there, very, very nice person, and helped as best she could.
Yeah.
But she was even limited. As much as she did, she did so much for you, but she was still only one person.
Yeah.
Whereas, as we just talked about, you had this, you're kind of in a cocoon, because on all sides you had somebody there helping you out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it was great when you were in school.
Excuse me. Oh my gosh.
Bless you.
Sorry, somebody must be talking about me.
Other than me. I don't know what I was talking about now. That since when you get out of high school,
mm-hmm.
there was so much that other people had been doing for you in order to ensure your success. But then once you got into college, you're responsible for that.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird thing too, because I know that when you were in school, I was so involved. I would get calls every day and just be at the school every day, and
especially in elementary school.
Yeah, that was rough.
I was a troublemaker.
No,
I just got in trouble a lot because I would react to things.
Right. And it would be, some things were completely reasonable,
mm-hmm.
and other things, they were reasonable for you because it's what you were feeling, but from those of us looking at it, it didn't make any sense. Like it would come out of nowhere. Mm. Like things that certain ways you needed things to be, or a sudden reaction that you had to something that we didn't anticipate.
Right.
Yeah. And it doesn't take away that just because we couldn't see it, we didn't understand it, doesn't mean it wasn't valid.
Right.
Because that's what you were going through, so it doesn't mean
it's valid
that it was
to
wrong.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's wrong to me, but
correct.
But it doesn't always make sense to everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of it, like you needing that line to be straight.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So when the teachers would say,
line up in a straight line.
A straight line. Boy, how many kids did you wipe out making them get in a straight line? You wanted to be first.
That was being first was when I would wipe them out.
Yeah. You had to be first.
Not intentionally at all.
Sure.
But
right.
Just in the rush to be first.
Right, with that tunnel vision.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then trying to make sure that everybody was in a straight line.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was something that was so difficult for you when they weren't in this perfectly straight line, to everybody behind you that was not cooperating as far as you were concerned.
Yeah.
It didn't mean anything to them. They were in line. They were where they were supposed to be.
Yeah. And I later on learned a phrase that explains it almost perfectly, like trying to herd cats.
Hurt?
Herd.
Oh, I was going to say, you've never heard a cat.
Oh.
Herd, right.
Yeah,
herd.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
guide them to a place.
Got it, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Get the hair out of your ears, Mom.
Oh, no. So college was very different when you first went.
Yes. And I know that this wasn't the main issue I would have, or that I did have, but another factor of it was that there was so many things I just wanted to do and help out with. I would stretch myself too thin and make it so that I wasn't doing the homework, and that's just one aspect of it. That's just one aspect, and I've had to learn to deal with that. And not make that mistake again.
Well, again, I think it goes back to the help that you had in high school and in middle school. It made it possible for you to be in the public school setting. It also made it possible for you to be successful. And at the same time, it made college so difficult because you didn't have any of that and everything was up to you. I remember at some points, having to have you signing a paper saying that the people at the school could talk to me, at the college, because you were 18 and you're an adult. So there were just so many supports that you had that were just not there. And you know what? I always think it's really hard anyway. I know that a lot of people are successful in doing this, but going to college at 18 is just hard. A lot of people leave home and they go and they do this for 4 years and they're successful. And I just think it's amazing. I'm astonished that anybody can do that, because at 18, how are you equipped to handle what's going on in the world out there?
Well, there are people like my sister Haley, and they are just amazing, and they can do stuff like that. But yeah.
And point is that when somebody with autism or another disability, but we're speaking about autism because that's what we know.
Yeah, because Josh has autism.
Because Josh has autism. That's right. It seems like there's just nothing that carries over into college or into the. There's some organizations that help with training and job placement and different types of things like that. But it just really does feel like all of a sudden, even as a parent, where there's all this support and help that's available, and then when you turned 18, it's like, there you go. Those that help that's out there, just like, okay, yeah, you're welcome. See ya.
I remember using in my words at the time that it felt like I had been coddled in high school once I got to college. Right.
And I've thought about that so much. I don't, if we could go back and do things again, I can see some things that I would do different, but I just didn't know, and the help was there and it was available and it was necessary. Day after day, it just was so necessary. And so when you were 18 and you started college, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're a different person now. You tried college another time after that, and you actually stayed at the school. It was a special.
It was a technical school.
It was a technical school, but it was an amazing, amazing place that everybody that went there had some sort of, quote, disability.
I like how you said that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because even some people that don't seem like they have a disability, like sometimes, most of the time, people don't realize that I'm autistic whenever they're talking to me face to face. And whenever they find out, they're like, "Oh, really?" So, yeah, I like how you did the quotations with that.
Right. Because I remember, there were some amazing people that you went to school with.
Yes.
And it was just a really wonderful place, and yet that it wasn't the academics in that environment that tripped you up,
right?
That interfered with you at that point. It was the away from the academics. It was living there and experiencing all of the stimulation that the way that you felt anyway was nonstop. So and rules that were put in place that were not enforced, and that was something that was, and I think still is, very difficult for you. I think above everything else, yes, it's the stimulation. So there were people going up and down the halls, because this was a dorm.
Yeah.
You shared a room with somebody, and they had counselors there. They had a nurse that dispensed medication, and so it was insulated, and yet it was what I think finally caused you to leave school is that when there were rules that were in place and you could clearly see that somebody was
blatantly breaking those rules.
Exactly. And they were not held accountable for that. It's my impression that that's what made it so difficult for you to continue.
It was that, and I essentially got in trouble for what they were doing. Not in so many words, but...
Okay. I remember talking to a counselor one time about it, as it was, when all this was going on. So I think what happened was, as it was explained to me, somebody else did something highly inappropriate. Let's backtrack a little bit. Somebody was cheating on a test. You, being Josh King, announced you are not allowed to cheat on a test. And the person that was cheating on a test went a little bit off the rails, or a lot off the rails. And when the teacher realized this other student was cheating, then this student that had already gone off the rails because you called her out for cheating went off on the teacher and you. That's what the counselor explained to me. So, in effort to smooth things over, when this was brought to the attention of the administration, ultimately the solution was for her to not do that anymore, and for you two to apologize to each other. And so you need to tell me if this is your recollection as well. And when that happened, that was unfair, and it felt like that's just more than you could take, because you were having to apologize for something that all you did was state the truth.
Yeah. I still haven't gotten an apology from her.
Well, right. Is that yeah, yes, correct. Is that kind of essentially like the tipping point for you at school?
That was the tipping point, yes.
Okay. And other than that, there were some things that were rules that were in place, yet they were enforced unequally.
Yes.
And I'm not just repeating what you say. I'm saying that as I was talking to the people there, that was correct. And yet, not necessarily that they were doing a horrible job. But this is a school of people with different understandings and capabilities, I guess.
Yeah.
But I remember that. Well, yeah, I guess you had a mad pooper.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Except we called him something else we can't say on the...
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. He would randomly poop in the hallways.
Yeah.
And because it was his last semester, he admitted to it, and they just let him finish anyway, even though he would have been expelled for it had it been anybody else.
Those are the kind of things that make you bonkers.
Yeah.
When there's inequality in your opinion. If there's a rule that's put out there, the rule should be for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of speaking for you now, but I what I'm trying to say is this is my, because I know you, this is my interpretation of what is important to you.
The ones in charge should not pick and choose who needs to follow the rules and who doesn't.
Right. And so what is it about those type of situations that make it... that made it in the past impossible for you to continue? Okay, I'll ask the second part of that in a second.
All right, can I clear something up real quick?
Yep.
Initially, when I caught the girl cheating, I was like, "Hey, you shouldn't have your notes out for this test. It's a closed note test." And I was saying it softly just to her, and then it escalated.
Okay.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
Because I do try and help people. Right. And that's what I was trying to do.
Okay.
I was trying to make it so that she wouldn't get in trouble for something that she wasn't supposed to be doing.
Right. Okay.
And so that kind of sentiment to be thrown back in my face like that, like it did, is very... It's very disproportionate. Right.
Yeah, I understand.
And discouraging.
Since that time, so let's say that at this point now was what? 6 years ago?
About that.
Okay. So the first time you went was about 10 years ago. Then it was about 6 years ago. Okay. So are you able to work through those kinds of situations in a different way now than you were able to then? Or do you not know?
I know that now, if something along those lines happens, that I need to bring it to the professor's attention first. Not to bring it up on my own.
What I'm asking you about specifically is, do you know if there's that sort of inequality that you're experiencing? I thought you were going to say something, so I stopped. I thought you were going to say something. If you experience that inequality, are you able to continue moving forward, or does it get to you to the degree that it did 6 years ago?
Let me put it this way. It's very difficult for me to stand there and view an injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And that statement I just said even applies to movies I'm watching. That's why some of them I cannot watch. It's because there's just so much crap that goes on to a person in the film, and it's just like, I can't stand to watch this kind of stuff because I can't do anything about it.
Right. Right.
And
so an injustice, so that I understand, is that your perception of an injustice, or is it when there's already parameters put in place that outline what the rules are, that you get upset when there's something that somebody else in an establishment or whatever, they've already put into place, so that those rules are already in place and you see those rules broken? Or is this a I guess I'm asking you,
is it personal or is it
you'd be right, because it doesn't seem to me that you judge anybody.
I really don't.
I agree with that completely. So this is not a personal judgment that you're making. When this happens, it's... Well, in the movies, there's not an establishment that have made these rules that are upsetting you.
Right.
What I think you're feeling is this agitation that happens when there's so much happening and nothing is being done about it, and it's not stopping, and it's snowballing, and it's like, ah. So that's when you just don't want to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
But specifically then, when there's rules that are put in place, what bothers you is that if those rules are not enforced equally and fairly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from that incident, like I said, I've now learned that I need to bring it up with a professor in a quiet manner that's not bringing attention to everybody, but just the professor. And I've learned that now. And that's what I should have done. That's why I was forced to apologize, was because I brought it up and it escalated in front of the entire class. That was the explanation given to me. And I understand that from that perspective. It just didn't seem fair that she just got a slap on the wrist, though. Saying, don't do it again.
Right. So, because the offenses were nowhere near equal.
Yes.
And they were treated as equal.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. So what happens if you see somebody cheating now that you're in college again? Are you going to feel like you have to go tell a professor?
I would try and discreetly bring it to their attention.
Whose attention? The student?
No. I was going to say that. Because it's not my responsibility for that.
Right.
As much as I would like to try and help with that, it's not my responsibility.
Right. And so, do you feel like the issues that were difficult in the past, are they just as difficult now, but with maturity, you've discovered a way to move forward? Or do they not bother you as much as they used to?
Oh, they bother me just as much now as they have in the past. It's not just maturity, but it's also experience that has helped me figure out ways to do things properly.
Right. Okay.
And I hope that I don't have to learn any more lessons like that. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. There are difficult things that happen in life. I have to deal with them somehow. And I mean, even people without a quote unquote disability have to learn how to deal with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
And
right.
So, I mean,
so yeah, I agree. You have chosen a degree program that I think is awesome.
Yes.
It makes me laugh. I guess my first response was, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I am a communications major. I want to eventually, like, specifically, that's the general degree name. Mm-hmm. Specifically, I'd like to do public relations.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's hilarious.
Yeah. It is. So, yeah.
So it's
maybe you make some of the rules.
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel like in pursuing this particular degree, you feel like that is something that is going to lead to something where you're communicating verbally or in writing?
I think it would be a mix of both. Mm-hmm. I don't know how great I'd be in just a speech kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But if it's more of an informal kind of setting, like what we're doing here for the podcast, mm-hmm. I think I'd be really good at it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And being able to help other people learn from my experiences of things mm-hmm. and my knowledge of things. Mm-hmm. I think that would be really cool. But
right.
At the same time, I love writing. So it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like your first love is reading.
Yes.
And coming in second is writing.
Yes.
Yeah. And
coming in third is video games. Which is tied with eating.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And they're not necessarily always in that order.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that it's, and I'm really proud of you for doing this again, for stepping out and making this happen. And, it's, that success right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And, so it's there's been a couple of different degree programs that you've looked at, a couple of different things that you've, considered doing. Mm-hmm. And ultimately you've said that those things were because you didn't know what else to do. And when this was brought up to you, it just kind of clicked. And it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. How do you think that this program is going to help you?
I think that it would make it so that I have... Sorry.
It's okay.
I think that this would make it so that I have a better handle on exactly how to word things. I mean, one of the reasons I'm as well spoken as I am is because of all that I've read. And, of course, because of you.
Well...
So modest.
Oh. It's clear. I think you just said I rub my mouth all the time.
Huh?
I'm talking to you all the time from the time you got here. Non-stop. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, the good news is you listen occasionally, too. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I would not have the sense of humor, any sense of humor, I don't think, if it had not been for you. I mean, I didn't understand humor. I didn't. Sarcasm, I would take literally as being the truth instead of being the exact opposite.
Right.
Sometimes still jokes go over my head, but not very often anymore at all.
Right.
And I've learned timing of when to say things from you. I've learned everything just flooded my head.
Yeah. That's okay. That's all right. Because it's a, it's been kind of a trade-off because, I'm so happy that, there are no accidents. We're supposed to be going through this lifetime here together and to be getting what we're getting out of it. But, I'm glad that those things have, been able to help you. And, at the same time, I've learned a different way of looking at the world and people and experiences, because we've gone through this together.
Yeah.
So you're 1 week into college.
Yes.
Yep. And I think that we'll need to let everybody know how it's going. And
yeah. Well, I will say one thing.
What's that?
Because of my outgoing exuberance on the first day of class,
Yeah.
I was mistaken by the professor in my one class.
Somebody thought you were the professor?
Most of the class thought I was the professor.
I'm telling you what, didn't I just tell you the other day
Yeah.
that I think that you would make an excellent professor? That'd be awesome. That you could really totally set the rules then, right?
Yeah.
You would be great at that.
Yeah, I'm actually older than one of my professors too.
Oh well.
Yeah.
I was when I went. I was older than mine too when I went.
But I'm 29. I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right. So, what are your? We're gonna wrap it up here. But what 3 classes are you taking?
I'm taking reporting 1. I'm taking English communications 2. English comprehension 2. Not English communication.
Okay. Okay, comprehension. Got it.
And the 3rd class is liberal arts math.
Liberal arts math.
Yeah.
I don't think I know what that is.
As it was described to me by both the professor and the person who helped me choose my classes, it's the weird class. It's a weird math class with some practical application math.
So
Even the professor said that.
wow. So it's just some kind of wonky math, huh?
Well,
That's so funny.
It's starting from the absolute basics almost.
Okay.
That was what numbers are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then it's going to be going on from there.
Okay.
And including some statistic stuff and things like that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you for doing this, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it and anxious to see how it goes, and yeah. So you'll let us know, right? You'll check back in. Let us know what's happening as you go through the semester.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Good deal. Is there anything else you want to say about school?
Not really.
Okay. All right. Good. I think we got it covered. I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's it, everybody. I guess that's it. And just think it's exciting. I just don't even know what else to say about it. I'm just excited, and I can't wait to hear about it. Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us again.
Yeah, and also thank you for asking about my Nana.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yep. Little sassy pants is doing all right. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk next week. Love ya.
See you guys.